All right, I think we're going to get started here. Hi, how you doing? So welcome everyone to Migrating from Alpha and Integrity for System Managers. This is version 2. We gave version 1 of our talk last year at the Boston Bootcamp in October. But if you weren't able to catch the recording of that one or visit in Boston, we're going to give this again with a slight update and a few things that we learned throughout the past year or so. So if you don't know me, I'm Kobe. I'm a L2 on the sport team, but also I do half-time work with the professional services team. I'll let
Yeah,
Dave.
and I'm Dave Sullivan. I manage a lot of the professional services in North America. I report to Raphael over here. And Kobe works on a lot of projects with me now.
Yep. So this talk, for the most part, is an overview of our methodology when it comes to helping you as customers migrate your systems from Alpha or Integrity to x86. This is obviously something you could do yourself, but if at any point you mess it up, it is very critical and there could be a lot of downtime to a production system if you aren't able to do it right. So I think it's important for us to share with you what we do in the background to help you best achieve that result. But at any point, you can just hire us to do it for you, and we'll do all this as we go over in the talk. So let's get going here. So for the agenda, we're starting off with the challenges and considerations you have to consider when you're upgrading your system from Alpha and Integrity. We're going to go over the 5 steps to what we consider a successful migration to be. Next, we talk about preparing your x86 environment, talking about hypervisors, hardware, infrastructure, things in that nature. Next, we go on to building the actual system as soon as you make your choices and prepare your plan effectively. After that, we go over a brief future of x86 features and some of the differences you'll notice as soon as you're converted from Alpha and Integrity onto x86. And we'll end off with time for questions and provide you with some links, guides, and resources that we use internally to achieve this setup of migration. If at any point you have questions too, feel free to raise your hand. This is a interactive presentation, but there'll be time at the end as well. So starting with the challenges and considerations, the first one we like to emphasize is understanding your goals when it comes to going from Alpha and Integrity to x86. In our current version of 9.2-3, when you do migrate over, there are certain features that won't quite port over from Integrity to x86. And what you need to understand is that when it comes to the priority you have as a business and knowing what your goals are, that's something you need to understand before you do your migration. If that comes to performance speeds, if you like automation and scripting as your priority, if you're more of a person who likes to have redundant machines and have the ability to migrate your machines over different locations, this all comes into effect when you have to choose your hypervisor and which system you're going to start to build yours off of. Secondly, you got to know if your system's up to date. If you're on Integrity, it's not up to date, which is why we want to help you migrate. But even so, while you're on Integrity, we want to make sure you're on the latest versions of the kits and the patches, just so we can migrate you over in the safest method possible. And we have some internal tools that we'll show you later on in the presentation that help us achieve that. Lastly, once you're sent over, you're virtualized. You're on x86, and you're going to use a hypervisor to use VMS on your new system. So we also offer now cloud services. So why not try it? I feel at the point where you got over I don't want to say the fear or the hump of being on Alpha and Integrity, and you're finally ready to make the transition to x86. This is the point where your system is at the cleanest, most optimal, well-running fashion. It would be a great time to maybe add in a cloud addition to your system and maybe even add it to a cluster and a mixed architecture cluster, or what have you, even a dev test system, or a test system, not a dev system. All right. So what we do here at VMS is a 5-step stage system for migrating. The first thing we do, me and Dave personally, is assess your system. And if you talk to us over email or we set up a meeting with you, we're going to get all the information we can get from your system and make sure we have a complete overview and expert knowledge of what we're going to transition over and make sure that you know.
And further down, we'll show you, we have tools and stuff you can submit to us and we can run them through those tools to give you a heads up on where your roadblocks or challenges may be.
Exactly. Next step after that, we go over the planning stage. At this point in time, we use project plans, which are just 3 to 4 page documents that we develop in the planning phase to help us and help you understand what we're going to do step by step, noting the most important commands and file locations and everything we need to know before we actually execute the migration. Third is when we perform. Dave and I have found that the best way to perform a migration is to chunk it out in 4-hour blocks per system disk. A lot of customers have 2-3 node systems with multiple clusters, and it could take a 1 to 2, 3 day undertaking. So you want to make sure that you plan for enough downtime that if anything does go wrong, that you have an extra day or two to recover that and make sure your system's in place.
Yeah, and the other piece into that too is we'll explain a little bit more, but to understand if there is, because we can always, if the cluster's already set up, we can slide a node in, x86 node in, without the downtime. But if there are things that need to happen on the way to that, then you can be prepared for that. You maybe use windows along the way, downtime windows along the way that you may already have planned to make a few adjustments if needed. Some people don't have to, but some may. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Fourth phase is validation. So as soon as we execute, as soon as we get the successful migration done over a weekend or so, we want to make sure it works, right? What's the point of having your new x86 system and it doesn't work how you want it to? So we make sure that we make it a point to validate your system, make sure everything's running to your desire. Lastly, we'll get into optimization and how to get it to run the best way it could. We've figured out in the last year or so that a lot of this is hardware based. Once you make it over to a hypervisor, there's only so much tuning you can do in VMS to really get the speeds up to par. So we want to make sure that we go over hardware with you today and make sure that you're choosing the best hardware that'll enable you to get.
I think the phrase that we're using now is optimization through configuration. So understanding what it is, what your outcome wants to be, means that the configuration you choose could greatly impact what the outcome is. So allowing you to understand all the different hypervisors and what they offer and what VMS can interact with may help you make a better decision up front, which will allow the performance or the features that you want in the back.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're gonna start off with assessment. So what is assessing a system? Really what we're doing is we're gonna go over your hardware specs, look at your system information, the products you have installed, and what storage you're using. There's some obvious stuff in there that you could provide to us as a customer immediately, such as the CPU cores, RAM, your hard disk, and the space you have left. But some other things we really gotta get into the system and figure out for ourselves. And we'll go over one of the tools we use later on, but this is where we look into your networking configuration, your system parameters, and really take a deep dive and make sure we understand that everything we want to work correctly as soon as we get over. When it comes to the products, we have our VMS provided layered products that you might have had installed on Integrity. And what we need to do is look at the products you already have and make sure the ones that are ported to x86 are going to be on your system. And any third-party products or ones that haven't been ported and may be unavailable on x86, we want to make sure we notify you that, hey, these might not make it over. Let's look for alternatives. What do you use these products for exactly? And make sure you understand that it won't be quite the same.
It's kind of a good time, like, because when do we actually create a new system disk, right? We did it once with X, we made another one with Alpha, and another, one with Integrity, and now we have another opportunity to start fresh. So a lot of the old stuff that's kicking around in these disks goes away, right? So we're starting out fresh, and the idea here is to keep that with that thought in mind, making sure that we're also knowing what your tuning was prior and optimally tuning and have that information available to update the newer product. And when on the previous slide about the updating, right? So if you're up to date on everything in Integrity, also OS layer products, when we go to x86, you're already going to be at very similar versions. So there isn't going to have to be any conversions or things done on the layered product stuff that we have to move over. So that's why it's like to have the OSs up to their latest levels and the layered products prior to move.
Yep. Okay. Click out the window. All right. So in this assessment phase, one of our most invaluable tools is the VSI dollar support report. We use this every single time. It's a be-all, end-all solution to just grab all of your system's information in one quick burst. And as you can see in the example image, we have a system overview section, memory section. We'll go into the network section, take the summary, and we just one by one note each and every aspect of information that we're going to need. If you attended Homie's VSI dollar support talk yesterday, he goes over the inner workings of it and how it was developed, but just know this is an invaluable tool for us to use to analyze your system, and you're welcome to use it as well in your own upgrades and migration.
Or just to have to shoot a moment in time of your boxes. Keep track of sysgen parameters. Maybe somebody changed something, didn't change it right.
Yep.
You reboot, things are problems, right? You've got a snapshot of quite a bit of detail in your box that you can have handy.
Yep.
And we save them by date, so it's easy to remember them.
Yep. Per node as well.
Yeah.
Yep. While the VSI dollar support section does have a products list, we use a secondary tool to check each and every product and see what versions are available to update, or if there is an updatable version. We call this the x86 readiness tool. Some people refer to it as the version checker, but this is another invaluable tool that we use. Right here, we just have a sample output of what it looks like after we run the tool. Right here, we have DECnet version 7.3-2. At the time, this is the most updated version. It's going to show out green. If you had this DTL dev product and it's out of date, but there is no x86 port, it's going to show up red. It's very simple. It's very clean. And
yeah, it's a free service we provide. Yeah. So even if you're just starting to wet your foot into going to x86 and you're wondering automatically, are there any roadblocks? This thing searches your product history as well as the old file and sysdollar update, the old text file from the stuff that was installed with old VMS install, and then runs them through our database of stuff that we have collected of valid things that move across. So we can be more than happy to do that for you and provide you with the output, and then what to start addressing to move forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's our most two important tools that we use to assess your system. Finally, just to wrap up on post-assessment, how we're going to start planning to develop our project plans to upgrade your system or migrate it. The reason we need to emphasize the importance of a planning phase is to avoid your projects coming in over budget or behind schedule. As we work with you to do this migration, we're going to give you the budget, we're going to give you the estimated timetable, but if you were to ever undergo this yourself and you weren't planning correctly, it's very, very easily that you could go in over budget or miss your estimated timetable. And the idea is to not have the you want to have the least amount of downtime possible for your system. So this is why we really emphasize this planning phase.
Right, and by scrubbing the boxes as well as we do, sometimes we uncover stuff and that people didn't even know they had installed or were using. You know, some really old things in Itanium, and then that's when we get together and figure out, you know, what's the next workaround, what can we build around, code around it, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely. And as we're planning, we utilize a project plan. I've included an example template that myself and Lindsay Stiles on the support team have developed to use. If you're doing your own internal upgrades or migrations, feel free to do your own, but we find it best to have everything summarized and listed out in a pre-upgrade phase, the actual execution of the upgrade phase, and post. And we note each and all the information we get from the VSI dollar reports, and we put it into here. And a week before we execute the migration, we share it with you as a customer, and we work side by side. And if there's anything we missed, you can help us include that before we actually go with the project plan and go with the migration. Okay, so your planning's done. We assessed. We're ready to go. Here we included just an overall timeline of what it would look like for when you're starting to install x86. You would reach out to us, get an account on the service portal. This allows access to all the ISOs you're going to need, the patches, the kits. Once you get your account, you spoke with sales, we're going to proceed with configuring your hypervisor, virtual machine, and we're going to start to execute installing x86 on a new system to migrate over to. With the information we got from the planning phase, we're going to set up the networking and try to get it as best we could to be the same as it was. And as we go over in the project plan, if you have any code that needed to be ported over, we would consider the architectural differences and make sure things are going to make it over there as well. But most importantly, we recreate your production environment and run tests and make sure that once it's migrated over, things are going to run as well as they can. But once we get to the actual configuration stage of x86, you're left with a lot of choices. When it comes to hypervisors, at this point in time, there's quite a few, but you might have it on VMware, EXXI, Linux, and KVM. I spoke earlier about our cloud offerings, and you could be layered on top of a cloud service at this point. So these choices are getting pretty wide at this point. But yeah, so we have installation guides and release notes for versions of VMS and the installations for the hypervisors, which we've provided links to in this presentation and at the end. But what's great about virtual machines generally is the trial and error aspect to it. As soon as you try to install and you mess up, you could always just delete, scratch it, get a new one, try again. And it's crucial for us internally to be able to run these VMs and test them, try them over and over again to develop the most optimal, quick, seamless process to install it for you. So yeah, if you're interested in all of the choices for x86 hypervisors, I believe Camille has a talk tomorrow on each and every one that we support at this point in time. But yeah. back over
And
that.
towards a little bit further in this, we'll explain some of the differences and options available in the different hypervisors, which should help make your decision. And the decision sometimes isn't you as a system manager's decision. You're being directed that you have to use, this is what we're using. We have, we ESXi shop VMware, that's it. Or we're KVM, that's it. So if you have to live within one of those boundaries, then, you'll be aware of some of the functions that may or may not be available.
Yep.
So we'll explain that in a little bit.
Yep. So we that was a general overview of our process and what we do when we try to migrate. We're going to get a little more VMS-y at this point, so I'll let Dave take that over as this is his forte. But
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's great working with Kobe and learning a lot about these hypervisors. As a VMS person, and sometimes it's like, we always had to learn the consoles and the hardware, right? I got the consoles all set. Then once you can figure that out, then you get the VMS piece in. Well, the hypervisors are basically like learning consoles, but they're like so much more things to them. It required a little more work for me, so I'm happy to have Kobe around. So, in this part of your migration, right? So OpenVMS, the nice thing is we use this once we get the OS running, right? We use the same install procedures, for layered products and the configurations and that sort of stuff that we've used all along. So once we get to that level, things look very similar. One major change, so like the x86 release requires a new system disk, as what we were saying, right? So again, this is a time, where we can't move the old disk to here. You have to start from scratch, install, and move over the configuration pieces. And that's why, Kobe was saying earlier, the planning, very important to know what pieces we have to pick up and move. Like if you're a Samba user or something like that, we got to pick up Samba $root, move that over, that sort of thing. But again, the releases in x86 are mirroring the latest releases on Itanium, so they really are pretty easy to move over once you have all the bits and upgraded in place, right? So we have a great tool, the x86 readiness tool that we just showed you. We do that for free. The account management team is always happy to get you set up with that, and we'll run it through and give you an idea as to what we see for how easy or how difficult your migration may be. And then, obviously at that point, we'll know that some products don't have a way forward, and then we can get together with you and Brett and whoever else we need to grab off the bench to figure out the best way around. And I will tell you, I've had some customers running products that, I know aren't moving forward. And then when we actually ripped the covers off of that, we found out how little they were using of those products, but thought they were completely married to them. And, with some small C code, they wrote right out of them. And it was like they were paying all those years for some product that they actually only used like this much of and didn't really need. So sometimes if you've inherited a lot of these machines, you also maybe inherited products that you don't quite know how deep they're being used.
Yeah.
Which button is the one on the right here?
Oh, no, he's got right.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Oh, sorry. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So optimization is your configuration, right? So, this is an interesting one. I started thinking about this with Kobe and some of the work we've been doing, right? So in order to optimize, it's important to configure your VM with the options that you need. Not all options are available in every VM at this time, right? Things are always changing. So the right way is to explain all these to you and let you make the best decision possible. But as I said, some system managers may not have the luxury of that because you may be boxed into a certain, mainframe that or certain host that your company has picked or is running, right? So for instance, right, if you're a big IO shop and you're looking for direct access SAN, which we're all excited about, 923 is going to introduce PCI pass-through. So if you're a big IO shop, you're going to be like, hey, all right, now I can actually zone my beautiful SAN directly to my HBAs that I can put in a hypervisor box. Just dedicate them out. Great, I've got direct access SAN. Everybody gets excited about that. The only sad part about that is at the moment, it can only be done on VMware ESXi with certain HP hardware and QLogic adapters, and you lose the ability to do vMotion.
Yeah, and it's Gen 10, so I tried to get demo servers from HP and said Gen 10. Oh, they are really old.
Yeah, they're probably not even going to do that, right? So Gen 11 is fine too.
Yeah, well, we have tested it and it works, so
yeah,
we're fine.
Good.
Right.
So, but what I'm saying is, in your situation, right? So if that's what you need, so if you start all thinking, as I said, optimization through configuration, think about what hypervisor you're running and what you need, as a shop, right? Is it big IO? Do you not need big IO? And that would make the determination, right? What's available. Is vMotion that important to me? I'm okay doing my backups elsewhere and moving my stuff and living in VMS the way I always did. But our job here in this presentation is just to get your eyes open, to make you aware of all the things that we're starting to develop and put out there, and the adapters and things like that. So that way there, if you're going out to buy hardware, we want to make sure you're buying the right hardware. So there's some adapters listed here, the Gen 11s, the QLogic adapters, if you want direct access storage.
You also need to realize that you need to have at least one SON adapter for each VM, because you can share.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's basically the way you're doing it now. You can't split A and B ports, and it's exactly the way it is now. You have your machine, you have your adapters in it, then you can have another machine with those adapters in it. Yes, absolutely.
So you need to do buy something with a lot of PCI slots for the SON adapters.
If you want that many paths, you will. Yeah. Right. A lot of times it's more people buy more machines and then just put the 2 ports in, or they'll have 4 ports in each machine, depending on how they want to do it. Right. How many level, if you want, I want 2 paths, 4 paths, or 8, right? Or money, and more money. Yep.
I had sent for the adapters already.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So currently, right now, this is the adapter, the 1100Q 16 gigabit and the 32 gigabit ones that we're working on, and we'll have available. We have available 923. So for those folks that have been waiting for those are available in ESXi, and I actually just heard that KVM very, very shortly. So PCI pass-through will be available in KVM very shortly. So that is very good news. So now if you're in a KVM shop, you need direct access IO, here it is.
Yep.
So awesome job by our folks in storage.
For everyone that's trying this out, if you have lost your way already for, I don't know, 2-3 days and it still doesn't work, try to check the firmware version. That's the next.
Yeah, that's always true. He brings up a very good point. We still even run into that with customers putting arrays on Itaniums that they haven't updated their firmware and on their HBAs in ages. And even the HBAs, sometimes when they come from another environment, they aren't at the right level either. So if you are having weird stuff, very good point.
If you do not get it directly from HP,
yeah,
that in your mind.
You may have to. Your firmware may vary. And some other things we've learned here, right? So also understanding, how you want your storage to be, right? So I know a lot of people have started to put up these vSANs because we're running into them. What we're finding out is a lot of the drivers for the vSANs are Unix or Linux-based drivers. VMS doesn't quite have them, so we can't use the optimized versions of some of the vSANs, because vSAN by nature is kind of slow. The way we, you set up the boxes and the disks are in there, and we kind of, creak our way in and out. But there's new, like Dell has they have a box, like it's a storage in a box deal, right? Runs above the hypervisor, easy to get at. vSAN still reasonable money, but the drivers aren't available. So always check, just because you've got this running on your Linux box and it's great, you assume that this, you can still present the disk to VMS, but we may not be able to run in the high capacity mode because we don't have the driver like Linux does. So if you are choosing, I would always hop on our website if you're choosing a particular storage platform that you're going to present to us, that we understand what it is, right? If you're using, a standard array, a EMC or a Pure or Electra or whatever, right? And you're zoning that right to your hypervisor. It's agnostic to us. We don't care, right? But nor do we really care about the vSAN stuff. It's just that we don't have the drivers for it, so it's going to behave a lot slower.
Right.
Planning, yeah, and iSCSI availability is coming soon as well. So I know a lot of people are happy about that because that allows us to have, you know, fairly reasonable storage and still use things like vMotion and those tools. Very, very happy about that. And then, as you can see, to optimize your configuration, it's important to understand, you know, what each VM brings to the picture for VMS, you know, and choose the optimal one for what your needs are. That's what we're figuring out that, you know, because it's going to be hard for us to, you know, tune after or around, you know. So if you actually pick the for what you want to do, make sure if it's direct IO that now it's KVM or ESXi, you have the right ones and the right versions, right firmware in the cards and stuff, and then everything will work really well for you. Did I miss it? Yeah, okay.
You got it.
Yeah, so like another thing too, on a standalone system, like installing and configuring OpenVMS layered products, it's the same as we've used previous, right? When it comes to clustering, you know, at this point, clustering, each x86 member has to have its own system disk at this point in time. I did finally get a commitment from Camille that somewhere in the 9.4 that common system disk is one of the visions to come back on the table. I know a lot of people like their common system disks. I probably have this in a further slide, but while I'm on it, this is always another good time, right? Because housekeeping, right? We're going to a new system disk. Housekeeping kind of comes into play here. So a lot of you, I can envision having an x86 node into your cluster and start moving things over. And, you know, depending on how you want to do your migration, some folks will just move over one piece of it, run it on the x86 box. We did the same thing with integrities, right? When we had alphas, you know, you move them in and do a kind of a slow migration over. If you're doing that, having your UAF rights list, Q file, that sort of stuff on a non-system disk, on an aux disk or whatever you all call it, right? Have it on a secondary disk ahead of time will save some time, and sometimes that may require a smidge of downtime or something to set that up. But that kind of, because the common system disk folks right now, everything, a lot of them are in syscommon, this, that, whatever. And then you bring in your next, you know, your x86, you could define logicals to point them to the syscommon on the other disk. But if you're using the, you know, direct access storage or things like that, it would be beneficial to have that moved. It will save you a lot of grief going forward. So we do recommend that. Common system disks, you know, they're on the horizon. Pass through, PCI pass through. Direct access storage, all good stuff, right? And then if we're joining an x86 member, right? So that's what the disks right now, you know, they're going to be MSCP served. So you may have to pop in and do a little MSCP tuning, which we haven't had to do in a very long time. So just a few things to think about when you're on this quest, right? And then, you know, I already mentioned the UAF rights list, things like that. You might consider moving those ahead of time. It's actually beneficial for upgrades in the future, especially even if we need to move in cloud or whatever. Having those files separately away from the system disk can be very beneficial. If your migration plan, you know, if we're going to add the node, I just discussed this. You know, so when we, it's funny at times, you know, when nobody knows their cluster group. They know the group because you can always get that off of sysman. I mean, how many people know their cluster password? I don't know. I wouldn't. You know your cluster password?
I don't know what a cluster is.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, so correct, but it's a little trickier in x86 because you've got to go to the memory disk to do it.
Recover your cluster password?
Yeah, well, no, to
group?
move cluster authorized.dat and put it into the memory disk.
You have to run sys$md.
Yeah. How do I go back to Vex?
Never.
Vex on, Vex off. We're Vex off right now. Yeah. Yeah. So that you can. That's the file. We all know and love it, but there's a little different way to move it now. So don't get frustrated if you can't figure out why it won't go in there and get seen right away. So yep, absolutely. Either way, we need to modify the file locations and logicals, right? So I know a lot of you guys know most of this, and then adding more x86 instances to a cluster, right? Having a common system disk for sharing those files outside of the system disk, the UAF, write/Q files, things like that, make it much more easier when it's time to bring that x86 instance in. You can, you can point it right to those files, and it works much better. We already discussed this, 923, we're going to use pass-through. Further enhancements, as the dump file, and I think as part of that the common system disk deal, the other deal is you'll have to have a dump off system disk because that won't go in the dump kernel. That will definitely have issues. But so you might also want to prepare for dump off system disk if you don't have it already. So that would be another thing that if you're going to take advantage of that down the road, the common system disks in Itanium, you will be using dump off system disks to start. Again, the stuff that's available now, the adapters we listed already, the 32 gigabit one is right around the corner, if not almost ready. Dell support is on the list. I still haven't heard an official a date or time yet on that for the Dell servers and the QLogic cards and things like that. But it is on the list. Do you have a date? Do you know? I don't know. We don't know yet. Yep. So those thinking of Dell at this point, I'm not sure. So
We are using Dell. So.
right, but using Dell in as far as in the hypervisor modes and stuff, right? I mean, you're using the Dell that piece of it, but not. What I'm saying is, if you're going to use PCI pass through, you're going to need to use the HPE products, right? So.
No.
Because the natively on Dell right now it's not available yet. So, and then check the website to contact us. When you're doing the planning, always check the website. We're trying to keep it updated, and as we progress forward, we definitely want to make sure that we're providing you with the right information. And if there's any questions, as I said, your account managers can get a hold of us. Email, that sort of stuff. We want to work with you to get forward. Other niceties, is there going to be an image translator? No. We enjoyed that image translator when we were going from alpha to integrity. A lot of people used it on code that they didn't have the source for. That doesn't exist in Itanium for reasons that are well above my understanding. But I was told that is not happening. And then direct access fiber channel, yes. We have that. Common system disks are on the horizon, and those are coming in 924. So these things are all starting to make these x86 boxes look a lot like, your boxes of today, and have the same abilities and performance. So we're really excited about that. And then we want to be a key to success here. And this is our professional services time where we're going to plug our ability to help and service you in any of your needs, whether that is in managed services. If you've got IT folks that are thinking of playing more golf, we'll be happy to take over the lead there. Professional services, these type of projects. We come in a lot for short-term projects in and out.
And we mentioned it earlier, but
yeah,
in addition to this would be our newly added cloud services that we can provide and set up for you.
Yep,
So.
and application services too. I mean, we have Brett Cameron and his team that provide an awful lot of application workarounds for customers that wind up needing some tools to move forward. So those are available from us, and always check because we have them available. And then at the end of this, we've got some references. If you download the slides, some quick clicking to get to the release notes and to reread what the availability is for the charts. And as I just want to say too, it has been a pleasure working with this young man over here next to me. I have learned so much myself on a lot of stuff that these VMs bring to the table. And I think the two of us together have got quite a bit of knowledge that we're now sharing and will share with more people in the user environment as well as in VSI. So
Absolutely.
thank Daria and Raphael for putting us together. So thank you.
Yeah. One more. Go
Is
ahead.
Alan Muir part of your team as well? or-
Yeah, Alan is the technical lead for the sports team.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
I worked with him when he was at Infosys.
Oh, really? Yeah, he's amazing. He does really good work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have been working basically the same time with OpenVMS, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually built us out on a thing that we had going on with a customer last week. Customer didn't. And how often does this happen? The customer calls up and they said, "Well, we can't boot. So what's going on?" I don't know. We made this one change. We wanted to add move a quorum disk. They hadn't rebooted in 8 years. Not sure how many other machines or boxes around. Somebody could say we haven't rebooted in 8 years. I said, well, a lot's probably changed. I said, where's the system guy? Oh, he retired 2 years ago. So it took Alan and me and a couple other folks to get out the broom and shovel and backhoe and figure out what the heck got changed and moved or whatever. But yeah, Alan's still sharp.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Any questions?
Question
Yeah.
regarding Oracle or DB.
Okay.
Have you heard anything from them? How far?
I have not, and I think, is there somebody mentioning that in one of the presentations tomorrow, I think, maybe, or?
Oracle RDB.
We will have a meeting with
He's
Oracle next
presented
week.
at this.
Since part of our.
Yeah, he's just asking about a general update about RDB and
Yes,
PMS.
Well, we reached out to Oracle and asked them to present.
Yeah.
But Kevin Duffy couldn't come to this meeting and he specifically asked us to point all of the customers to him. So you can contact Kevin directly. We can give you his email address. He asked us to do that. So please do. And he'll give you a personal update on how far along they are.
Basically, the idea is that you're not going to be a bother for contacting him. If anything, he would really love to hear the different customers that are interested in it. So please do contact him.
But well, of course, we'll have a meeting with Oracle next week as part of our
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
So we will push
Mhm.
that question at that time.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, I hope this session helped you out and just got your brains thinking about, the different hypervisors, what the availability is of different things that can plug into them. Some of the storage you may already have that may not work as good as you think it might work. But again, any questions on that sort of stuff? I'm doing a lot of work in testing the storage and Kobe's doing a lot of stuff and seeing how it all interconnects. Because
Yep.
even though it's agnostic to us, as I said, some things require special drivers that we may not have. And if there's, again, just like you're talking about Oracle, same here. If there's enough people that say, oh, if we could get this or whatever, we could build a business case for it. We'll do it. Yeah. Yes, sir.
You were saying earlier about VMware to have something for the IO shop.
Well, right now, the ESXi, you can take it.
Yeah, if we're talking performance speeds,
Yeah.
through our tests, we found that VMware in the XXI was the most effective to getting similar IO speeds from an Itanium on.
What's the difference what's the speed difference?
I believe the bare metal Itanium was running like 10 to 12,000 megabytes a second. And then
we
once
were
we got
testing
up
it with just JBODs in the box, just for the heck of it, right? And then seeing what they were behind the hypervisor, in front of the hypervisor. Yeah, is that what you mean?
It was like a 2 to 3x difference between the hypervisor and the bare metal Itanium. And through optimizing the hardware, we got it to be equivalent again, if not faster, on VMware. That's the most testing me and Dave have done,
Right.
or the professional services team has done. KVM, other hypervisors, I don't have a concrete.
Yeah, we actually
metric
haven't
yet.
had many people complaining about that have, some modern storage, Pure or whatever, attached right to hypervisors and running their programs. We haven't really had anybody complaining about speed at all. And as I said, pass-through was great because there's customers that want that direct IO access. So now that's available. So that really eliminates that piece of, I'm a high IO shop. I can plug my storage directly in. And that again, may not be, your test may find out it's more than adequate not using that too. So it's just that when we get some of these funky vSANs and some of these other arrays that we haven't quite seen yet, and the drivers are only written for Linux, and then VMS gets them, we only know how to process them as JBODs, and the speed just goes down the chute, and you're like, man, I'm running this thing on the Linux side, and it's speeding right. And we were watching the sky, and going, yeah, you're right. I can see it's really fast. It's really slow here.
Yeah.
So that's what it turned out to be. So
Yeah, and we noticed the
as
network.
soon as they plugged the direct access SAN in, we fired up the disk from that. He was like, whoa, okay, I'm good. I'm sorry to bother you.
Yeah, a lot of the network-based storage solutions
Yeah.
seem to not play too well with VMS. So we're really glad to see the PCIe pass through.
Yeah, and the iSCSI too
iSCSI
coming
as
into
well.
availability.
Yeah.
That'll be a lot more, for a lot of the smaller shops to have that, as direct access and, be able to, if you're using VMware, vMotion, that sort of stuff. So yeah, great. That it? You guys, you good?
Awesome.
Everybody good for now? All right. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and attend this. Hope we provided you with the information that you needed. And obviously, you know how to find us and the team in whatever region you're in. So appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.